Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary on shows I like to watch. Now, before I start, I want to ask that you go ahead and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And on YouTube, where I upload my companion episode of my podcast, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This way, you can get a notification every time I post a new episode, and you won't miss out. All right, so welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Your presence is very much appreciated. Okay, so I hope you all are enjoying your weekend thus far. I'm not in my normal location where I record my podcast, so this will be really short. And I know I always say, this is going to be short, and it then winds up being 20 minutes. But I'm going to try to get through this really quickly. I don't have much, but I'm hoping that it'll be short. All right. So the last time I chatted about the game, it was the eve of the last eviction. At the time, we saw Flip Flopper Marty nominate Betty and Herman. We watched on the last eviction night where the house guests unanimously voted to evict Herman, and he was the first member of the jury. I would have loved to see Herman advance further in the game, but based on his performance and how well he was playing, especially under pressure, he was seen as a threat in the game, right? So him being evicted was not surprising to me. The shenanigans with Flip Flopper Marty's nomination speech, we could have done without because it just wasn't clever, nor was it funny. What was clever was when Herman told Flip Flopper Marty to look into the camera for him to tell Canada how much of a backstabber he was. And I thought that was a dig. I thought Herman's dig to Marty in that moment, I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. All right, on eviction night, we also saw more footage of Jess's desperation and how thirsty Jess was for the other house guests to consider them as an asset in the game. But be clear, the house guests did not see Jess as an asset at all. Jess was pretty much a joke in the game, and it was evident that Jess offered little value to any of the other house guests, and that's why they voted Jess out. All right, the power went back up for grabs, and we watched BB Canada Productions' failed attempt at the HOH competition, Buzzkilled. Apparently, this was a popular HOH comp in BBCAN 5, so they brought it back. It would have been more interesting had the game functioned properly. But if you were on the live feeds, as many of us were, we saw malfunctions in the buzzer where they had to reset and then restarted the game, only to have it malfunction a second time. To then, they called it quits for the night. In the interest of, quote unquote, interest of fairness, production decided that they would scrap the HOH game and play another competition the next day, which would decide the next HOH for the week. Of course, this HOH competition was not only not on the live feeds, so we'll have to wait until they air that next Monday to see that competition play out. But it was a very important competition, right? Especially if you are not rooting for a Gino, JC Lynn, Marty, Kevin, Helena. If you're not rooting for any of them, it would be perceived as a very important HOH. All right. So, I forgot to mention this. We also saw the failed attempt of Gino being voted out over Jess last week, right? But this was thwarted because Betty and Josh, mainly Betty, because she had a very bad read on Flip Flopper Marty. I can't blame Betty for that, though. Her reads in terms of trying to decide, Marty's not going to do this. I think that's what she said. Look at him. He's not going to do it. And she thought that she and Josh would be put out there or something hanky with the votes and stuff, and people will blame her. But that was a very, very, very bad read from Betty. And it stopped the Gino eviction, and they voted out Jess. While it was a good game move in terms of payback for Tanisha, and we all enjoyed that, right? It may not have been a good game move in terms of leaving Gino in the house, right? And now when the live feeds returned, we learned that, and this is a spoiler alert, Gino is the new HOH. The plan Gino has is to target Flip-Flopper Marty. I'm not 100% sure about his approach to get there because we heard that he nominated Summer and Moose. And if for whatever reason Flip-Flopper Marty was able to avoid the block, then Moose would be the next target. Right. So Gino plans to backdoor Marty. And if he misses that shot at Marty, Moose is up there and that's the next target. All right. So this HOH doesn't charge me up at all because we're seeing the same people win HOH and the trajectory of the game is pretty much predictable, right? I suspect this week, if it hasn't started already, we'll hear a lot of courage coming from JC Lynn this week. We'll hear a lot of courage coming from her. We'll hear Helena lie and lean towards the power and float. That's what she does. We'll hear both Helena and JC Lynn trash Summer and how much Summer, quote unquote, isn't doing in this game, right? And let's remember, like, Helena hasn't won squat in the game, right? So let's be clear about that. And let's also remember JC Lynn, while she has won 2 competitions, her power in the game is through the showmance, right? We don't fault her for that. We don't fault Helena for that. That's their gameplay. But the way they'll attempt to demean Summer's gameplay because she's able to use her social skills to advance her, it is gameplay. And it has worked for Summer. Just like Helena's lies and floating in the game works for her, just like JC Lynn and her showmance in the game works for her, just like Flip-Flopper Marty and his mania and rage works for him. I'm just not here for Summer bashing. I'm just not. Summer's approach to the game and her gameplay works for her. That's it. We'll also hear from Kevin in terms of him attempting to directly manipulate. We'll hear little from him because he will be unable to directly manipulate Gino, I should say, because he doesn't have that relationship with him, right? I think we'll see him attempt to play coy with Gino and play dumb. All right, we'll also hear Summer attempt to use her relationship with Betty and JC Lynn, and I suspect she'll begin to play more up on the girl power, the girl winning, right? And over the guys angle, girls over the guys angle, which would be smart for her, in my opinion. JC Lynn wants to win this game. She does. And she thinks she's playing well. And she is. So if Summer can successfully get her to see that the girls are on the chopping block and it's a boys' game at this point, that could work. That could work for Summer. Maybe, I think. We'll also hear Betty this week practice a speech and how much she'll fight for the veto and want so badly to stay in the game. Right? We hear her say that every week. Overall, I think this week is going to be predictable. I don't know how much interest in the game talk I'm willing to follow this week because of its predictability, right? As a fan, it's pretty sad. And I'm not the only one that feels that way, right? I read an article where the ratings are really low, especially over the last couple of weeks for BBCAN season 10. And don't get me wrong, I'm not really swayed by ratings. If I like programming, I watch it and that's it, right? But I guess I'm mentioning the ratings because there may be something to how I'm beginning to feel about this season and its predictability. I may not be the only one feeling that way. Yeah. All right. Gino is the HOH. Summer and Moose are on the block. The power veto will be very important to see whether or not Gino's quote unquote target will be out this week. We'll have to see. How do you think this week will play out? Do you think it will be predictable? Let me know what you think in a comment. All right. And that's all I have. So be sure to come back and give me a listen. I'd love for you to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Leave me a message. If you're listening to the podcast, there's a link to leave me a message right on the landing area. So please check that out. All right. My name is Danielle, and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. So thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.